Hey, what's up, YouTube? Nick here from The Real Heroes Show. Welcome back to another episode that I will be talking about The Shrink Next Door, the finale, the series finale, that is, entitled The Verdict. If you haven't quite seen or caught up yet, I would highly suggest you go watch any prior episodes of the show, especially this last episode. Come back here and hear what I have to say on it. And again, there will be spoilers, so I'm just going to dive right in. We get a flashback to start off in 1982. It's mainly to show the support that Marty gave his sister, Phyllis, as she's leaving her husband, ex-husband, with her kids in the car. They're singing in the car as they leave. Looks like they're going to the Alps for a little bit of a vacation or something like that. We get a flash forward to present day in the show of 2010. It's early in the morning or late at night. It's 2:14 anyway. And there's a little bit of turmoil that we see within Marty. He still is in some sort of conflict between the way things have been with Ike, between him and Ike. Because there's a voice message from Ike on there asking if he still wants to be a patient. And I was sort of wondering whether or not he was going to give in, which he does, right? He does give in, and it is more manipulation. At first, I thought it was going to be a little bit of a dream sequence that he wakes up from, but no, he actually goes in, sees Ike. Ike tries to manipulate him even more, makes up this huge lie about him and Bonnie renewing their vows, which, as we find out later on in the episode, he hadn't even asked Bonnie at this point. She kind of feels bad about the whole thing, though, right? Just the way things have run its course. And it's like she does have this moral compass that she almost tries to make Ike see, but he just won't let go. Simply stated, he won't let go. He refuses to let go of Marty, this cash cow, as he basically sees it. He's a con man, right? And she gives in, and I was hoping that she wouldn't. I was hoping that there'd be a little bit more clash between the two at this point, but apparently not. And the other interesting thing about the conflict within Marty is by him separating himself from Ike, there's a void. Because now it seems like he has no one. Phyllis has been cut off. He's cutting off Ike for the good reasons. And he tries to find some sort of relationship with Bruce, his coworker, or his employee, rather. They go out to lunch. It's sort of, again, just a little awkward. And I like how he goes to the food truck, and he basically orders a turkey sandwich, and Bruce had already been there earlier to get some authentic food. But the one part about that conversation that really takes the course of this episode into the betterment of his decisions for Marty is Bruce asks if he still talks to, or when's the last time he spoke with Phyllis. Marty says 27 years. Meanwhile, Phyllis is sending Bruce birthday cards every year. And I'm sure that stung. It seemed like it stung a little bit. But it does entice Marty to make a phone call to Phyllis, which she can't really say it's his name, because she hears how he reacts to the possibility of him being dead, or that she's not giving him a kidney or more blood or anything like that. And so she has completely separated herself from him because of what had happened. Now, the other interesting part of where that leads is Marty meets with his niece, Nancy. She's grown up. She's a lawyer now. She doesn't feel it's comfortable to talk with her mother, and she always refers to Phyllis as her mother, even though she knows that Marty is his uncle and that they were brother and sister, Marty and Phyllis. The one thing she was looking for and she was expecting was an apology from Marty, but she doesn't get it. And I think that it's funny because that ends up coming back around later on in the end of the episode itself. But Nancy deserves an apology, And I think, again, Marty really isn't completely alert to the whole thing as to how he's affected his family, or what's left of his family. And I think it just sort of he started to realize it later on, because he's trying to reconnect the pieces, because he wants back in with the people that did matter to him. Obviously his family, but then he also goes back to the frame shop, Joe's frame shop. He sees Joe, and ironically, he asks about Hannah, and of course I kind of figured at that point that Hannah was already married. Of course, she's married with kids. But then Marty gets hit with some hard truth that Joe tells him that Dr. Hirschkopf came in and said that Marty told him to come have a word with her, which we saw, and I believe it was episode 3 or 4, where Ike tells Hannah to stay away and that she's just not good for his health. And Marty is dumbstruck. He's taken aback, he's flabbergasted. Like, you can kind of see a little frustration, which I was kind of glad to see. It's like he should be upset about this whole ordeal, because all Ike's done is ruin actual relationships that Marty actually wanted to have and cared about. I think Hannah probably would have been good for Marty if he were allowed, or if he would have made better decisions earlier on in his life. But I think that was probably the straw that broke the camel's back, where he calls Ike and says, sorry, due to other things, I can't be your best man to renew your wedding vows. And Marty goes to the Hamptons house. He changes all the locks on the doors, the keys, everything, and then lo and behold, Phyllis shows up, and she scolds the heck out of him, because of how his house, their family's house, has changed drastically. Asks about the tree. That was a low blow to her, and she even just says, like, man, like, what did he do to you? He did a number on Marty. And it's interesting that she can see it, but it took Marty 27 years to finally see him break free of this stranglehold that Dr. Hirschkopf had on him for so long. And but I think for the part that might have eased a bit for Phyllis was that Marty does care about certain things, about his koi fish, which I thought that the names that he came up with are pretty clever, like Backstreet Kois, Kois to Men. I don't know, that made me chuckle, but Marty wants to be her brother again. He wants to make Ike go away. He and Phyllis had a little bit of a burning ceremony and burned everything, or tried to burn as much as possible, that was reminiscent to Ike and Marty. And it's interesting how Marty asks Phyllis at one point, how'd you do it? And how'd you separate yourself from me? And she says, I just figured you were dead. I basically said you were dead to me. You were no longer living. And that's essentially what he needs to do for Ike. And so he now asks Phyllis for, not to say her therapy-esque opinion, but again, it's more of a mental state. It's more of the mental capacity to separate things, or to realize that this person is not good. This person is toxic. Ike is truly the definition of toxic. And of course, Ike shows up because he says he can't get into the house. And honestly, that might have been one of my favorite parts, my favorite scenes, is when they were burning everything because of just the atrocities that were committed to Marty and to their family and their property. But the funniest part, I think, was when initially Marty was like, no, we can't burn this manuscripts because I spent years working on them. And then Ike comes in, and Ike's like, it's all my stuff. It's all mine. where are the manuscripts? He picks up some that were closer to him, but then there were other ones, a larger stack that were closer to Marty. Marty just takes them and dumps them right in the barrel of fire. And I was like, oh, damn. He was hesitant at first until all it took was Ike showing up to really, no pun intended, but fuel the flame. Because as Marty leaves, that's when Marty. When Ike leaves, that's when Marty runs and tackles him. Kind of reminded me a bit of like Frank the Tank moment, or like Will Smith. Oh my God, Will Ferrell, and like Anchorman or something like that. And he shoves Ike. He just I think in a fight, Marty would have totally whipped Ike's ass. That's just my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, but he says how much he ruined his life, right? The deep pain that he has taken, the things that he took away from him, right? And again, like Ike had threatened his koi fish, just everything. And I was glad that he finally snaps out and he says, "You abused me and you betrayed me, Ike. You betrayed me." And betrayal can be a symptom, and that is the proof we've seen. It's the proof Marty needs. Another hilarious point was when Phyllis is braking the car, and for a second I thought, I was like, "Yeah, you go, girl, break that some bitch's car," and he's like, "That's not my car." But Phyllis is like, maybe for what Marty did, it was justified. Although she should have just gone right over and started smashing his car too. But, it was a pretty powerful scene, to see Marty finally snap out of it. And I think one of the funniest lines from Ike was, "What did I ever do to you?" And it's like, how many years do you have for me to tell this story of what you did to me? Even though Marty gives him a very simplified version at the end there. But we get a year later, time jump. The tree is replanted. There are chickens in the yard. Marty's a beekeeper now. And the touching moment is, him having a full table with his family, and he has this moment. You could see him. It's not like he doesn't drift off per se. He's time almost stands still for him in that moment. He can see everyone. He just hears it all. I think it's his sister's grandchild, I want to say it was, that says, "Is he really your brother?" And she's like, yes, he's really my brother. And it's like, look, all is seemingly forgiven. It's great. There's a touching moment, and I feel like this is a great meme for, there's no stronger thing than family via Vin Diesel here, from Fast and the Furious. But again, it was good to see that things were patched up and that things are being reestablished with his family. And Marty just takes it all in. It's a great moment for him, even though he has a little bit of a panic attack when he leaves the door open. He's almost afraid that Ike's just going to show up and come in, right? And he doesn't want that to happen, and that's why he shuts the door. At least that's what I thought. I don't know if you guys think any different, but let me know in the comments. Finally, we catch up to 2021, the year that you and I are actually living in at this very moment. And Ike is talking to a table full of lawyers vouching for himself as to his relationship and what he does as a practice. And Marty's there. And, it was kind of funny because Ike is almost trying to manipulate everyone else at the table, the lawyers, and they're just not having it. They're like, "Yeah, okay, yep, thank you, Dr. Hirschkopf, sure, yep, okay, yep." And you see him try to be even extra serious to Marty at the table, and it doesn't work because at the end you can kind of see Marty walking toward Ike, who's like fixing his briefcase or something like that on the side, and Ike tries to do what Ike has always done and tries to get in this small talk, and it's just still sad that Ike, after all these years, has never changed, and I doubt he ever will in real life. But Marty asks him if there's something he has to say to him. And then Ike says, "I forgive you, Marty," while still trying to manipulate him into everything that's happened, especially with him trying to get his license revoked. I could still help you, and Marty for a second gives in to 1 second, he gives in for a second of the B talk, and he's like, no, like, after he doesn't get an apology, much like Nancy was looking for an apology, Marty's now looking for an apology and doesn't get it. And that's just, that's it. That's all I needed to hear. You're not going to give me an apology. You're not sorry for the betrayal and the decades of ruining my life, my family's life. And that is unforgivable. And that's it. And then we get the facts at the end. Over 27 years, Marty paid Ike $3.2 million. Insane. It happened to multiple families. Another family left Ike $20 million in their will. So from two people, two patients, two people that he saw and manipulated, that's $23 million. I would almost be curious to see what the total amount is from all the patients that he manipulated. It's got to be over 30 million, and no doubt higher than that. And it was the same thing. Having his con was manipulating patients to cut ties with their family, because it's a way to divide them and to hopefully or inevitably get money, or at least have the intentions of bleeding them from their money, and then Ike, receiving it, recuperating that money for himself. And in February 2021, Ike Hirschkopf has his license revoked. Can we get a round of applause for that? Yes, he deserved to have his license revoked. And, the other crazy part was it took 10 years for this to happen after Marty first lodged a complaint. So that means there's 10 extra years of just further and more manipulation and deceit to other people. And then after that, surprise, surprise, Marty never returned or had any further therapy, because you'd think after something like this, he'd want to have therapy, but also he wouldn't want to have therapy because of everything that happened. Like, his trust for therapists is probably completely shot. Zero trust in therapists at this point from Marty Markowitz. So, overall, I want to say this was a great show. Obviously limited series here, but tremendous acting from Will Ferrell and Paul Rudd. Something completely different than what we're used to seeing them as. I thought they knocked it out of the park. Same thing for Kathryn Hahn in the few episodes that she was a part in, and a lot of the sets were well done, very believable. Just the production value was great. As for most of the shows on Apple TV Plus are have pretty high quality with cinematography, picture, and audio too. Even for a show like this, had some really good audio in it. So overall, I'm gonna give this show a 9 out of 10. It's only 8 episodes, granted. At the same time, it tells a great story over a few decades worth of actual life from these people. It's crazy to think of this is based on a true story. And of course, we see a picture at the end of the real life version of Marty and Ike, and pretty close. I don't say they're spitting images, but I think they did a pretty decent representation as far as making Paul Rudd look like his real life Ike, and then same thing for Will Ferrell to as Marty to the real person. So, but what did you guys think about this show in its entirety? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you thought it was miserable? Did you think it was slow? Did you get bored while watching it? Was it too much cringe? Maybe, but it's also based on a true story, so I'm sure the cringe level was probably accurate. And obviously, as they mentioned, there are things that are slightly different, but at the same time, you got to imagine that if you listen to the real podcast describing their real life events, I'm sure there are equally bad and cringy things that we can find out. So just want to say thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching this video here. Me talk about the episode and things that happen. If you're new here and you want to help support me in this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for free. I will be covering a lot of stuff this week before Christmas. I'll be throwing out the second half of my Invasion review, Dexter New Blood. We've also got Spider-Man No Way Homecoming. Not Homecoming, but Spider-Man No Way Home, coming soon. We got a Wheel of Time video coming as well. Matrix Resurrections, Hawkeye finale. So I'm going to try and get a full week's worth of stuff before the Christmas weekend comes. So again, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Like, subscribe, bell for notifications, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.